Have you ever felt reality tilt? Like you're seeing under the surface of your life?
I'm checking in my own signs today. Let's see what's waking up.
You're listening to The Pathless Path. We're two women figuring it out as we go. This isn't about perfection.
It's about staying rooted in truth, not trends, and having the conversations most people avoid. A spiritual awakening isn't a performance, it's a quiet shift. Think softer choices, clearer boundaries, deeper honesty. And as we talk, feel what's true for you.
Let's talk about some common signs that you should be looking out for. You might be experiencing a heightened intuition, suddenly sensitive to noise or people. Maybe you're feeling off in old spaces, experiencing vivid dreams, or maybe even time alone is calling to you.
I'm loving that we're talking about this because the first thing that comes to mind for me is the heightened intuition. And I didn't know, but I noticed that for years I was having gut problems and I couldn't ignore it anymore. And so I started to turn into more of a healthy eating habits, even though I was already healthy before, or so I thought. But everybody has a different body chemistry. And so you have to find what really tunes in for your body. So, yeah, essentially, I started to use more nutrition, to lean more on real nutrition, as in vegetables, fruits, and more teas and more herbs. How about you?
For me, I was starting to feel disconnected in some of the communities and like friend circles that I've been in. Um, it just it wasn't aligned with the way that I was feeling. And I love the fact that you also mentioned about the heightened intuition because I kept getting signs or signals that I don't want to say it's like prediction or premonition, but just kind of like how you were feeling the gut situation, it was a gut reaction of, oh, maybe something is going on and I should be paying more attention to it.
So, I really like what you said, Kiki, about, feeling that you felt disconnected from people and having to feel that you need to be alone and spend time with yourself a lot, because sometimes we don't really pay attention that under the hood there is priority that are shifting, right? And then like certain emotions that are surging and are balancing, our rebalancing of our relationships that we're going through with ourselves, with other people, other scenarios, other things that are happening. And I think that that's like super important, that we are able to listen to ourselves, right? And like listen to our intuition. But how do you do that, right? If your spiritual awakening is now just happening, how do you calibrate all this? Like getting all these downloads and all those things are happening to you. It's like, okay, my body's feeling different. It's not like you're an adolescent and getting, your first time cycle. It's not like a first you're navigating through life. Now you're like an adult. And it's like, how do you navigate through this without having any former teachers or family members or friends that can walk you through these kinds of things, right? Like it's just interesting.
I get where you're coming from with that one. It is a very interesting time in your life when you're trying to navigate your emotions and your feelings and the things that are showing up in your life, and how you are now going to have to, like you said earlier, rebalance relationships. And I think one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself when you're starting to when you are having like these experiences and like awakening is prioritizing how you are feeling and taking time for yourself. So creating boundaries for others in your life, right? So you're saying no, and you're not saying no because you're like angry about something, or you've gotten to the point where you've just like you're frustrated and you're just done with everything, you're saying it because you are trying to keep the peace for your own self. So you're taking that time, which is really essential, and a lot of people, I think, just don't understand that, or they because of how society makes us feel, we start feeling guilty about taking time for ourselves. And that's something I was actually speaking to one of my friends about recently, is like she's a mom. So she's a mom and she's working. So she's being pulled in several different places, and she's not having enough time for herself. So when is it that you're going to say no? And when is it that you're going to do things that make you feel happy as well? So getting in touch with that. And I think a lot of it comes from not truly understanding who we are as a person, because we are changing. We are humans and we are forever in a state of evolution. And I think we tend to forget things like that. And it's like I said earlier, it's good to take that time for yourself.
Absolutely. I feel like being constantly in a state of evolvement and of growth, and being around people that are your constant day-to-day mirror, right? Like you're always getting these like little today like triggers where you're like, okay, like how do I, and then you feel like it's yours, but then it's other people, and it's like, how do you navigate through all of this without having a true sense of like understanding, right? There's no manual, there's no guides, there's no books for this. I mean, yes, people are writing books about this, but like that's from their experiences. Everybody's experience is also different. So it's like, how do you manage all of this? It's very interesting. Like I remember for me, when my body started to break down, when all my gut issues were happening, right? Um, I didn't know what caused it. Truthfully, I was like, what is going on? But then over the years now, today, looking back at it, it didn't start like my gut issues started in about like 2018. But I'm like, those are the days that it got inflamed. Those are the days that it came out. Those are the days that I was sick, right? Like, but it didn't happen in 2018. This happened years before, years prior. It slowly over the time started to add up and pile up, right? And so I'm like, okay, clearly there was something going on. And so, this is kind of like to just give a little bit of a story, but like back in those days, I was fully vegan. I wasn't eating anything that was like, you know, different and that wasn't fit for my body. And I was very strict and very rigid into the way that I was doing the things. And I was like, okay, cool. I was very spiritual. I was doing the yoga, the journaling, the breath works. I was doing it all, the gratitude affirmations. And I was like, okay, how does it that a person that's so rigid into their life with being so good at taking care of themselves is still ended up by having issues with their gut? Right? Like, this is not normal. Like, this is like, I'm doing everything right. How is it that I'm here having all these problems? So clearly, right? And this is not to down talk on anything about spirituality, journaling. No. The point is, it didn't work for me because I was meant to do something different. I was meant to take a whole different path. And so today, looking back at all the things that I actually overcame, and I'm like, okay, my body cannot tolerate a full vegan diet, for example, or lifestyle. To this day, including a little bit of fish and eggs from time to time into my diet, but I am mostly, like vegetables and fruits, right? So mostly, and some grains, but that's besides the point. As far as my spirituality, yes, journaling does help me, but yoga less, or breathwork does help me. But there's other things that are helped me along the way. And so I'm starting to realize all of these things. And over the time, is when I started to get, my body started to speak up. So the gut was one of the triggers, but then the other triggers were body chills that I was receiving in certain parts of my body, right? And I found it to be very interesting the moment that I stopped being so rigid with like, I have to be vegan, I have to be doing it, I have to be, and putting all these boxes and trying to check all these boxes. I feel like the moment I stop being the moment I stop being that way and start to listen to what my body is telling me. What works for me may not work for you. And same for our audience, right? So it's really honing in to tuning into your body at the end of the day.
I completely agree with that. Like listening to your body. Um, I want to touch on something really quick. Is that I know I had shared that story about like the dragonflies and me not understanding or like connecting the dots to it, to what the universe was telling me. You know, like this was a sign. It was a personal sign for me. Um a lot of the times when I reflect on things like that happen, I kind of use, I connect dots with movies. I'm going to say that because I do like, I love a good movie. I could sit down and just binge watch really good movies. And one of the movies that really stands out to me is Practical Magic. I've been obsessed with that particular movie. Yes, I know, and I'm very excited for the second one to come out next year. But saying that, there's a there's a scene in the movie where she's thinking about her sister and she's walking under a tree, and the leaves start to just kind of like cascade all over her, and that is a similar thing that happens to me all the time. And it was me actually connecting the dots and realizing that the universe, whatever it was that was on my mind. So if I was thinking about tasks that I needed to take care of during the day or the week, or things I was trying to accomplish. Maybe I was going for a promotion. Maybe I had a big interview coming up or something like that, or a large a meeting. Maybe I had to present something, and that was what was going on in my mind. Things like that tend to happen all the time. So I'll get leaves cascading all over me while I'm in that train of thought. And I, at that point, that's when I just kind of like look up and say, thank you for the blessing. I understand what the message that you were trying to send me. And then I kind of like calm down and I feel at peace with myself. So I just kind of wanted to share that with you and with the listeners, with the viewers.
Yeah, it's so funny that you bring this up because those are some of the magical moments. So again, we've talked about this before, but like how many times that we think that like magic has to be like this big, huge billboard sign blinking at you, right? Or where we're thinking about, for example, like when we see, all the Disney movies, right? And we're thinking that magic has to be this kind of magic. And it's like magic is around you all the time. How you choose to look at it, what frequency you choose to be on it. Like for me, the last ceremony I did, for example, I remember I was talking about things that came up. So at the end of the ceremonies in the morning, because we were up all night. So in the morning, we kind of all get to like talk, and we're obviously all tired. And, a lot of us were talking about like what they saw, what happened, and we eat fruits in the morning together. So it's like beautiful to see the community like just get together. It's like really beautiful to watch and to see how we're growing and we're working. And I love it. But so in the morning, and I remember talking to two or three different people that day, and it was really interesting that like as I was saying something, that what the medicine showed me for them, or what the medicine showed me or told me to tell them, like as a channeler, as a messenger for the other, I started to see the things, and I was just saying it, and I was like, okay, like, as I'm saying it to them, I feel like I'm like crazy because I'm like, oh my god, they're gonna think that, okay. And a gust of wind comes by, or like I get chills on my arms and I'm like, oh my god. Or like I'm talking about my abuelos, I'm talking about my grandparents and stuff like that, and all of a sudden like the wind just blows, it's like here's a huge gush of wind, and I was like, oh my god, here it is, like they're here, they're agreeing. And every time this happens, and I'm like, but this has never happened to me in ceremonies before, it's happening now because it's like it's getting different levels. But and it's the same way now that I have this within me, this knowing of my intuition, and now that I have this, it's like I can go outside now and see my friends, and channel the message that I don't need to be under medicine in order to get the messages, because I'm attuned with it now. And so now I get the messages and I'm like, hey, can I share something with you? And they're like, yeah. And so I'll share the message. And again, I get confirmations. I get like body chills on my back shoulders, or I get chills somewhere in my body, or I get the wind to blow, and I'm like, yep, here it is. Or there's lightning happening, or my cat jumps on me, or a butterfly flies right in front of me. And I'm like, if you tell me this isn't like magic, and if you're here saying it's coincidence, honey, let me just there is no, and you can, for years I used to call it coincidences, and I'm sure a lot of us did when we first, because it's like you have to be able to not agree, but you have to be okay with yourself to realize that you were wrong, and to deprogram the fact that you're calling it coincidence and knowing it's synchronicities, because you're meant to elevate. And I feel like because of that, sometimes we're like, no, it's coincidence. I don't believe in synchronicities. Because you have to deprogram yourself to believing in that you're wrong. And sometimes it's very hard for us to do that, to start believing that magic is there. But the moment you shift a little bit, you'll see. Like, it's become one of my new favorite words, you'll see, to tell people a lot of. Because I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just telling you something. You don't have to believe me. You'll see. And then I hear back and it's like, you were right. And I'm like,
I don't do the you'll see. How you say you'll see, I tell people, come let me know. Come talk to me a little bit later. That's what I tell people. I so, all right. Well, you know what? To each their own. Come talk to me later. When you're ready to have the conversation, come talk to me later. Because right now, the message that you needed to hear, you are not ready to hear it. You were not open to it. And I was speaking about synchronicities. I was also having another conversation with one of my friends, and he was asking about like if just like healers were showing up. And I didn't really understand the context that he was kind of like saying that in. And I'm like, what? Like they're Reiki masters that go to these events. And he's like, no, just healers. And I'm like, just healers? What? And then he gave me a little bit of background context about like his mom having like premonitions and how he does it also. I was like, I think that there are healers in all of us. It's just how attuned are we, or in tune with our bodies, that we realize that this is what's going on. To expand a little bit more on that, and just to kind of like, I guess, throw in a wrench for our listeners, is that you're either thinking with your logical mind or with that free spirited mind. So your logical mind is saying the words like coincidence and not connecting the dots and saying that that's his synchronicities. And again, like you said, you need to be on a certain frequency in order to really receive that message and completely understand it. So the same way you said, your line and my line is a little bit different. The same way that you have your phrase that you tell your friends and you're in your circle is when we were having that discussion, I was like, okay, how about we change what you were saying, instead of, oh, it was a coincidence that I was having this conversation and then my mom called me and needed help with the same thing we were talking about. Instead, say that it's a synchronicity. Once you are attuned to that, once you start rephrasing how your sentences, the way that you are reacting to things, you're going to start seeing different signs, and then you're going to really start being able to tap into the abilities that you were naturally given, but society has kind of like drowned out at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's super interesting. To be honest, I feel like this whole gift awakening, it's kind of like, how do you believe in this? How do you believe? And it's funny because like 10 years ago, I remember like listening to people that are spiritual, and I'm like, what are these people talking about? Are they tripping? Like, what are you on, bro? Like, I was so confused. And I couldn't understand where their journey was. But like now, looking back 10 years later and how far I've come. So our listeners are probably looking at us like, these girls are insane. And it's fine. It's totally fine. I get it. Like, the message may not resonate right now with you, but you needed to hear it. And because this will plant a seed and you'll start to see certain things that you weren't aware of before. And then so like now you'll hear, you'll see. But the point is that it's just such an interesting topic, and it's very difficult to elaborate because again, we're speaking out of our experiences, and our experiences are very different, but also unique. Same thing, but and sometimes you'll have like, like Kiki gets chills sometimes when she's saying the right things. I also get chills. So there's some of us, some of the healers, and we all are healers. Going back to what you were saying, right? All of us are healers. But in this lifetime, did you come to reincarnate as a healer? Is this supposed to be your mission? Are you open and are you willing to see this? Are you listening to the call that your soul contract gave you in order to come back here? Because maybe in this lifetime you're not a healer. Maybe in this lifetime you're supposed to just figure something out, right? And not be a healer. And it's fine. But I think it's the ability that we all have in us. And are you listening to the call? And what is your healing capability? For me, I'm realizing that I have multiple different types of healing gifts, abilities that I have. And I'm very aware of them and I'm very attuned to them. The more I sit in medicine, the more I'm open to receiving more and more and more. So, how you choose to tune into your abilities is up to you. What would you say, Kiki, about that?
I would have to say, taking a little bit from what you said, is that yes, everybody's awakening is a little bit different. It might be similar in some aspects, but like you were saying before, it shows up differently for everybody. So you can read about everybody else's experiences, you can talk to other people about their experiences and how that came about in their life, how they were able to really connect the dots and know, okay, I am having a spiritual awakening. I know now that I'm on a different frequency and how to really tap into this. So like the heightened intuition, or you're feeling it in your body itself that you're uncomfortable, like this is not something that resonates with you anymore. So awakening can look ordinary. It can be moving over to maybe plant medicine. It might be nurturing your body a different way. It might also be adding yourself or joining a healer circle. So something just a little bit different.
Your signs are totally personal. So there's nothing really right or left or, front and back. It's really how it sits with you and really how you're feeling the signs coming on. And if there is something in you that's really steering the ship, right, a certain way, you're not making it up. It's valid. You're valid. And this is what's making you being your true person and being authentic and being original. And those are your gifts. These are your signs that are personal to you. So I'd like to invite you to think of some signs that you have noticed and that you would like to share with us in the comments.
Leave us a quick review. It helps new listeners find us.
Tag us so we can share you on Walk the Path is Path.
Where is your body saying yes or no today?
Stay wild
and stay weird.
We'll see you on the next one. That's it for today. If something hits home, share it or just sit with it.
Follow the show. We've got more coming soon.